Hey folks, Deano here again. This time taking a look at a Star Wars The Black Series figure. This one is the plain old white Phase 2 Clone Trooper. It says from Star Wars The Clone Wars, but not many Phase 2 clones just had this plain white look until like the Bad Batch, really. Few and far between had just the standard white, because they were all assigned to their own Jedi generals. So yeah, let's take a quick look at the box, shall we? So this is from, I believe it's only a few months ago, but it's from the era of plastic-free packaging. Yeah, Hasbro just went through this phase where everything had to be just paper. And yeah, the Lightning Collection Power Rangers suffered. Some of the Star Wars did, but thankfully they're already back to the plastic window. So yeah, on the side it's quite funny. The artist, even though he done a really good job, for some reason he has an E11 blaster in his hand, the Stormtrooper blaster, instead of what are they called, the DC-15 blaster, or I'm not entirely sure what they're actually called, to be honest. But yeah, some decent enough pictures, just a little blurb on the back detailing what the clone armour was. It's funny how they stated like the Phase 2 clone armour was superior to the Phase 1, even though the only visible change was the helmet, which, I mean, I get why they done it, but in my opinion, I prefer that look with the Mandalorian sort of style helmet. But yeah, I get why they changed it. It was to make them look closer to Stormtroopers. So yeah, thankfully, being a plastic-free one, I still managed to get a good figure. So yeah, he comes with just a couple of accessories. Again, that's an issue that Hasbro really has to deal with the Black Series. I don't know if the Star Wars license is more expensive than, say, the Marvel license or the Power Rangers license, but for some reason we just don't get many accessories with the Star Wars figures. I mean, compare that to the Lightning Collection. Even the base Lightning Collection figures came with extra hands, as well as like signature weapons and effects and things like that. Whereas the Star Wars figures, for the same price, this guy just comes with 2 blasters. Like, I don't really understand it. Yeah, speaking of, the blasters themselves are quite nicely done. We'll get him out of the way just so that it focuses properly, because this is dark plastic. Yeah, there is sort of grey speckling throughout. I think it's just part of the plastic that they've used, so it's not just completely blacked out. But yeah, it's really nicely done. Nice hard plastic that they've used. Compare that to the old school figures where it was all dead soft. And yeah, I like the big blaster, or the big rifle, and the standard one is a bit softer, but still looks apart. Still looks nice. All of the details are in place where they should be and where they need to be. But yeah, since I have the model kit, I'll probably just give him one of those blasters because they are more detailed, just in general. So looking at the clone himself, it is a removable helmet. So we'll take a quick look at the face. I know this face was a point of contention between a lot of the collectors when it came out. Yeah, it's decent enough. It's got Tamora Morrison's likeness. But yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that 5 o'clock shadow. They would have been as well just leaving it plain. I think the Commander Apple version that they released just recently has a better likeness, even though it's the exact same sculpt. In fact, it's the same figure, it's just painted in the 501st colours, which I think people are saying is inaccurate, but I think what they were going for with Apple was that the clone that speaks to Bail Organa during Order 66 at the Jedi Temple is indeed Commander Apple. So they managed to get two figures out in one there technically, because it just looks like a standard 501st. I might end up getting that figure. We'll have to see. Because I do like the 501st colouring. Vader's Legion. Who doesn't? But yeah. In terms of the sculpt and design work, it's like a combination. Like, this is the third version of the Clone Trooper body that Hasbro have produced. And yeah, this one is the best one they've done so far. The only one that comes close is Captain Rex, which I do have there for comparisons later. But yeah, this guy looks amazing. The version 2 body for the clones, these knee pads were glued, and this wasn't an overlay piece, so it looked a bit thin. This one, it's kind of a toss-up between the animated look, obviously because it's called the Clone Wars version. It's a toss-up between that look and the one from the movie. You can tell because it's got the black line around the forehead of the helmet. In the Clone Wars they didn't have that, but it still has the design aesthetics from the Clone Wars, if that makes sense. But yeah, it still looks really good, and it will be great on my shelf, to be honest. In terms of details, there's not a whole lot. Most of the paint apps, in fact, I think all of the paint apps, really went to the helmet. I think you've maybe got a few bits and pieces at the joints for the black, but that's pretty much it. The rest is stark white. But yeah, the helmet is really nice. It's a little bit wide, in my opinion, but still looks good. I do really enjoy that. But yeah, in terms of articulation, this is where it differs from the version 1 and 2 clones. The version 1 Black Series clones were just absolutely terrible. I've got Commander Cody, and he can barely hold a pose to save his life. But the version 2 was a lot better, but the proportions were a bit scrawny. Obviously because it was based off the cartoon. This one a little less so. Like I said, they've used the overlay, and they've put the shoulders on a new sort of O-ring system around the butterfly joint, so it follows the arm pretty well, and it also means they get out of the way when you lift the shoulder. So yeah, in terms of articulation, he can look up about that far. You can kind of see the face underneath though, if you do that. You can kind of look down, not a whole lot, but he is on double ball peg. Arms can go up that far. Like I said, shoulder pad gets out the way really well this time. He has a butterfly joint and upper arm swivel. Bicep swivel, that's what I'm trying to say. I could not think of that word there. But yeah, the amount of articulation in this guy just in general is quite staggering. So yeah, you've got swivel up at the top, single joint at the elbow, which gets just about 90. That one, they have sort of fixed it on the version 2 body. This sort of soft rubbery elbow pad would get caught between the armour and sort of snag. It still does kind of at the joint, but I don't think it's going to snap or anything like I thought the old one would. You've got hinge and swivel at the wrist, ab crunch or ab swivel. Swivels really nicely. Can go back, not really. Can go forward a little bit, but most of the movement is side to side, which gives them a lot of expression. Legs are still quite hindered because of just how the armour design is. But if you sort of move them out of the way, they can kick about that far. Kick back a little bit. They can go out decent amount. Knees have a hinge and swivel on them, and these ones aren't glued like the version 2, so when you do bend the knee, not literally to a king, but you can maneuver that in place so it doesn't look awkward, which is really good. Really like that. And standard ankle articulation and swivel, which is standard for Hasbro. So yeah, let's take a look at some comparisons. So obviously, because I've just started collecting these figures again, I do not have the version 1 or 2 standard clones, because up until recently I genuinely didn't think the Black Series was worth it. But yeah, here he is next to the model kit of the Phase 1, and you will be happy to know that they're about the same size, which is brilliant. I do kind of prefer the shiny look of the model kit, but the shoulders were always a pain in the backside to me with this guy. This one looks a lot better. So yeah, these two will be really nice side by side on my display. And just for a comparison with an older figure is Captain Rex, which, as you will see, for a figure that came out years and years ago, the likeness to Temuera Morrison is far better on this guy than it is on the new one. But then standard clones, you're not really taking the helmets off them, are you? One thing I do miss is the fact that the old clones used to be weathered quite well. And Captain Rex, even more so. Captain Rex is probably the best armoured Black Series figure they've ever done. But yeah, all in all, guys, definitely a figure I would recommend. It's up to yourself whether you want to get the standard white, like post-Republic version, or the 501st one currently. And I believe AliExpress also has some unique bootleg third-party versions, which I might look into, might not. Depends if they've got ones I like the look of. So yeah, definitely hope that we get some unique versions of this guy. Maybe even update Rex, because he is a bit short compared to this new clone trooper. But yeah, guys, until next time, I'll see y'all later.